Hello and good afternoon. My name is Shirley Bess and I'm a recipient of an MBE, so I know firsthand what it's like to receive an award. I am an Honours Secretary in a small team in the DFE, and I am the main interface between those people nominating others for awards, so it can be from members of the public, ministers or external organisations, and the teams in the department facilitating moderation by some of our most senior civil servants before submitting to the Cabinet Office for the Education Committee to consider. I hope that this event encourages people to become honours champions across the education sector, and that those watching consider nominating someone who is deserving for a Queen's Honour. So there will be time at the end for Q&A, but do feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along, and I will pop back at the end with some more information on how to make an education nomination for someone amazing. I will now hand you over to Andrew McCulley.
Thank you, Shirley, and I hope people can hear me. My name is Andrew McCulley. I'm the Director General for Schools in the Department for Education, but I'm one of the roles that I play in the department, and one that I'm passionate and excited about, is that I'm the honours champion in the department. And what that means is that I help the colleagues right across the department to both identify people who are worthy of honours, but most importantly, when we get public nominations through from a whole variety of different sources, that we also try to help with the presentation of those preparation and presentation of the cases for those honours. And we have a process in the department that helps to bring the evidence together to maximise the case for individuals, and then we present those cases to an independent committee of true educational experts. And it's a real privilege today to be joined by a group of colleagues. So we have colleagues of two members of the committee. As it happens, there's a big educational event going on today in Birmingham, and I'm actually sharing the same room with one of the members of the committee, because she was at the event with me. And I'll bring Dame Alison Peacock onto screen in a few seconds. But I'm also joined online by Sir Hamid Patel, who I know is going to be at this event a little bit later, but he's just about to travel to it, and then some wonderful recipients of honours who I'll introduce you to one by one as we go through. But let me start some introductions with two members of the Education Committee. First, Dame Alison Peacock, and then Sir Hamid Patel. So let me first, this is with the wonders of technology, I'm simply going to turn the camera to my colleague Dame Alison Peacock.
Hello, thank you very much indeed, Andrew. So yes, I was delighted to be offered a damehood, to receive a damehood in 2013. And at the time when the letter arrived, I was standing on the platform of the railway station in Potters Bar, where my school was. And my phone rang, and it was my husband. And he said, "You've got a letter from the Cabinet Office. What have you done wrong?" And I said, "I haven't done anything wrong. Open it. And it was a letter offering me a damehood. And he read it to me, and I thought, he's bound to have got it wrong. He'll have got this confused. Surely they won't be making me a dame. I was genuinely delighted. And I have to say, having received the honour, and I went to the palace and met the Queen, I haven't looked back, quite frankly. It's built my confidence. It's made me feel wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, actually I achieved this honour, and therefore perhaps my voice is worth listening to, and maybe I've got something that's worth people hearing about. So achieving the damehood was transformational for my life. I subsequently was offered an opportunity to become a Deputy Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, and then to join the Education Honours Panel, as Andrew has said, and more about that later. But that is a great opportunity to give back, a great opportunity to listen, to hear what other people are doing, and to give them recognition. Fantastic.
Wonderful. And I might, Alison, once we've done all the introductions, I might ask you and Sir Hamid to say a little bit more about the work of the Honours Committee itself and how you think about that. But let me continue introducing colleagues. Hamid, if you're on the line, you want to say a little bit about first of all who you are, but again, you've been the recipient first of a CBE and then a knighthood. So perhaps you say a little bit about your work and how it felt to be honoured in this way.
Thank you, Andrew. So I'm Hamid Patel. I'm the Chief Executive of Star Academies, and I've been the Chief Exec since its inception. It's a national multi-academy trust, and it currently comprises 31 schools, and it was named as the top performing trust in the DFE performance tables published in 2018 and 2019. It was also named MAT of the Year at the inaugural Schools and Academies show. I also serve as a member of the Ofsted board, and I'm a board member of the Confederation of School Trusts. My contribution was recognized by the award of CBE in 2015, and then I received the knighthood in 2021. Given that I had a CBE, when I heard, I hadn't sort of expected to be nominated again. So I was genuinely very, very surprised when I received an email with a communication that I was going to get a knighthood. I genuinely never sought a claim of this sort, but it's humbling that other people have recognized my contribution. But I was also very proud that this award was testimony to the exceptional work of Star Schools across the country, the amazing leaders and teachers who work there, and the pupils we serve. So yes, excited, who wouldn't be? The honours system is a prestigious national institution. And as Dame Alison said, it has had a huge impact on me, both the CBE and the knighthood. Receiving an honour is a defining point in one's career, a time to take stock and avoid complacency. So for me, it's redoubled my determination to improve the life chances of disadvantaged children by giving them the best possible education. So receiving an honour is a spur to do more, to prove myself worthy of the recognition I have received. Thank you, Andrew.
Colleagues, Alison and I are having some Wi-Fi problems, I think, in Birmingham. So I will. I couldn't hear what Hamid had to say, so I'll keep on going, and in hope that our Wi-Fi helps us through a little bit more. And apologies, Hamid, I couldn't hear what you were saying, but I'm also joined by Joanne Heaton. Jo, I think you're in Birmingham as well, but in a different room. I wonder whether
right.
I can invite you to say a little bit about how it felt to receive an honour. I hope our Wi-Fi gets us into a better position. If it doesn't, I may have to ask Cabinet Office colleagues to to tide us through, and I might sort of dial in again to see if it helps.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Jo Heaton, and in the lead up to receiving my OBE, I was executive head teacher of 2 primary schools. Took them on a journey from requires improvement to outstanding and good with outstanding for leadership and behaviour. A real, hard-working journey, but a really satisfying journey. I also am really privileged to the lead up to the award. I'm working as an NLE, a National Leader of Education, and to do work with the Department for Education, sitting on and now chairing the Primary Head Teacher Reference Group, and working on the Recruitment and Retention Education Expert Advisory Group, where we're part of writing the Recruitment and Retention Strategy. In terms of how it feels, in terms of receiving the award, lots of echoing what lots of people have said already, that the word "it's an honour" well, actually is an honour. It feels like a real honour, and came out of the blue. Did not expect it in any way, shape, or form. Hope I've still got a long way left to go in my career. I kind of thought in my head that honours were for at the end of your career, when you kind of people recognise what you've done all the way. But actually, I felt very appreciated. Had done a lot of hard work, and in our role, in our job. So I became CEO in the lead up to receiving the award, and I now work as the CEO of the Trust. In our profession, we make a lot of sacrifices. It's a profession we do for the love of what we do and the difference that we make, and actually to feel appreciated in what we've done throughout our career was a real defining thing for me. I received it via email. I was sitting working at a laptop with a homeschooling child and battling a million things, as we all were in those times. And actually, the subject of the email came up with my name and OBE, and I thought, what on earth? I'm sitting working like this, and saw the subject line of the email and was just floored, completely floored, couldn't believe it at all. So echo what everybody says around how it feels, but it was just an unbelievably amazing kind of moment. Took a long time to sink in.
That's amazing. Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm William. I'll just step in while Andrew's having some tech difficulties, which I guess we're all used to by now after 2 years. Jo, thank you so much for sharing that. And really nice to know what your reaction was as well when that came through. Did you ever think that you would receive an OBE or an honour?
No, not at all. Never even believe. I think I didn't believe I ever could. People like me and where I come from and things, it's that I didn't believe that was kind of what it would be a reality. It was one of those things that was so far removed from anything, the day-to-day of what we did, that I just didn't believe that it would be a real reality. And it was interesting at the beginning when, people are saying, that kind of reflection on, I didn't really know a lot about it, if I'm honest. I didn't know there was OBE, MBE, CBE. I didn't know a lot about it. And actually receiving an honour, you start to really learn and find out and realise kind of what this whole system is and the significance of it that you're now part of, which is really humbling as well.
No, amazing. And we'll definitely come back to that a bit later, because it'd be good to know how we can, increase nominations throughout the country and the education sector. And I think raising awareness of it is definitely part of that. Well, thank you. We'll bring you back at the end when we have more of the panel, but really nice to hear your experiences. Next up, we have Emma. If you'd like to join us. Hi, Emma.
Hello. Hi. Yes, Emma Beauchamp. So my day job is I'm a technical sales engineer at a company called Northumbria Optical Coatings. However, I received my BEM for my voluntary work with a voluntary organisation called the Apprenticeship Ambassador Network. Voluntary organisation, we're funded through the government, and I've been part of it for the past 5-6 years now. And receiving a BEM was completely surreal, something I've never ever thought would happen, especially at my age, at this point in my career. It was just incredible, and especially when for the past 5-6 years of doing it, I've loved doing it. Really passionate about apprenticeships, really passionate about inspiring the next generation of apprentices, as we say within the network. And it was just a really, really amazing thing to happen. Still doesn't feel a little bit real at sometimes, but yeah.
Can you tell us more about it? When did you find out? Do you remember where you were? And
Yes, I do, because it was a Friday. I'd got home and I had the letter in my post box, and I lived on my own at this point, about 40 minutes away from my parents at home. And I remember it was in November when we had lots of storms, so it was the one night that I couldn't drive home with my letter to see my mum and dad and my brothers. So I remember just kind of sitting with it, few tears on my own, happy tears of course, and then having to wait till the next day because I wanted to tell them in person. So yeah, I remember that vividly. So yeah, it just an amazing experience, and definitely will never forget opening the letter or seeing the letter in the my post box as well, kind of thinking, what's that?
Amazing. And it's just like one final question. I think Andrew might be able to join us again shortly, but I guess you mentioned like being a young person and receiving a BEM, and you never thought that would sort of be possible. How has that impacted you, and how do you think that will sort of maybe impact you going forward?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So I kind of always saw the honours as people, much further on in their career, or kind of like Joe said, at the end of their careers and things like that. So when I got it now, it was just incredible because it was amazing for me to get it, but also to know the importance clearly of apprenticeships, to have got it for doing something within apprenticeships. Obviously as well, being so kind of early on in my career, it'll be amazing for that, and just to kind of always have that with me. It's just something I will always just be really proud of. So yeah, it's been amazing.
And definitely be keen to hear your thoughts shortly. But for now, I'll try and bring Andrew back on, sort of end my understudy days.
Thank you so much, Will, for working through our technical difficulties here in Birmingham. I'm glad Alice and I are now both back on screen. I hope we're now joined by John Laramie, the principal of Exeter College. John, I don't think we've ever met, but your reputation in the department is huge, and I've having been involved with the free school movement right from its start, and therefore with the supporting the maths school and hearing all that you've done in Exeter College as well. I feel as if I know you very well, but it's great to see you, John. And perhaps you say a little bit about your role, and also again your experience of receiving an honour.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for your kind words. I think, I didn't start out in life really believing this was even possible. So like Emma, actually, I started off as an apprentice in life. For me, I received an email, it was probably in October or November, to say if I was offered an honour, would I accept it? And within a split second, I immediately said, yes, that's incredible. And you still don't believe it's real until the Gazette's published. And for me, it was 2020 New Year's Eve, New Year's Honours List. And I think that, a number of other speakers have mentioned the word, you're humbled. But I think for me, what makes it so wonderful is that somebody somewhere has recognised quite often the things that you do outside of your day job. For me, I worked on the free schools programme to help set up one of the first maths schools in the country. I had the joy of working with school colleagues to help establish the Ted Ragg Moti Academy Trust. And as a volunteer, I chair a sort of a like group of colleges nationally. And my day job is at Exeter College. And for me, the fact that somebody had considered that work and submitted an application on my behalf somewhere was truly fantastic. I think for me, that's the thing that makes it most wonderful. Most things in life, you go off, you take an exam, and at the end of the exam, you've either passed or you've not, or you've applied for something yourself. The fact that somebody somewhere feels that you're worthy of honour, I think is truly wonderful. And for me, I sort of took it as a reflection really of how I try and make a difference running Exeter College, and hopefully making a difference to Exeter and the region, and hopefully through the work we do, the wider country. So for me, it was incredibly humbling, and something that I will absolutely never forget. And I think my wife was able to come with me. I think sometimes when she's missing me for another night where I'm off doing something, I think for her it was nice to be able to see actually that some of that work is valued and appreciated. And I think a little bit like Joe's journey, I've become a national leader of FE as well. And but the final point I'll make is that I did have to look it up to work out exactly what a CBE was. And you perhaps don't realise how the system works and what the different honours mean. And I went to America on business, and I can tell you the impact it has is unbelievable. That internationally people recognise that you must have done something that people think is very worthy.
It's a wonderful story, John. And again, maybe I'll hear from you a little bit more on the wider panel later. But my final introduction today of this wonderful array of expertise and experience is Eddie O'Hara. I think, but despite the fact that many of us are in Birmingham today, you're also in Birmingham, but not in the same venue. So, Eddie, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and again about your honour too?
Sure. I'm Eddie O'Hara, and as you say, I'm in Birmingham. I've worked with children and families as a social worker for probably about 40 years. I've been a teacher for around about 20 years, and my current day job is I provide or manage family support in about 18 schools. And I also provide training for the police, local women's centre, and some addiction services. So that's my sort of day job. The reason I think I was given the award is because I set up a campaign charity about 4 years ago called All Birmingham's Children. And the rationale behind it at the time was just having a conversation with somebody about talking about their own child and the pressures that had, but not really thinking about other children. And it got me thinking about, as a city, we can't really achieve the potential for any of our children if some of them aren't. So I wrote to the government, to the minister, etc., asking, is there a plan for all children in Birmingham? And the response was not as such. So then I wrote to the city council and said, is there a plan for all children? Not just some, but for all. And the response was, we provide statutory services, but actually that's as far as it actually goes. And as a city that we have more children than any other European city, we have 461 schools, we have 460,000 children. I could go on and on and on, world-class universities, etc. Many of our children have a fantastic life. We have the best of almost everything. But at the same time, we have 32 to 54% of our children in poverty. We have the worst health inequality and obesity in UK. So it begs the question about why is it that we are only providing services for some children, not all. So the campaign set about looking at what's preventing those sorts of issues from happening. And we have engaged with all of our leaders, political, faith, community, etc. And it's sort of a positive challenge in a sense. We've also laid out what we think are lots of free things that could happen to improve the lives of children here, but not only here, across the UK. So we've had lots of support from other cities. We've had support from Japan. We've had supports from Sweden. We've had supports from the British Association of Social Workers. But we've met quite a lot of local resistance, because one of the key things we ask is of our elected officials, can you please just explicitly clarify what have you done in the last 6 months to promote the needs of all children? And what are you going to do in the next 6 months? So notwithstanding all of the great proclamations and the policies and everything else, it's actually what is happening here, because we have over 10,000 homeless children, temporary residents in Birmingham, and yet our city becomes richer every year. So something isn't quite going right. So that was the campaign, and the result of the campaign is that I've recently published a book, which I'm more than happy to provide complimentary copies to anyone that fancies it. And it sets out 32 recommendations as to why and how we think things could improve. So far as receiving the award, I thought it was a hoax. I thought nobody in a million years, given some of the resistance we've had from all sorts, I thought never in a million years would anyone either nominate me for it or would it pass what I understand is a fairly long process of checks. So I emailed the Cabinet Office twice, and the email came back saying, yeah, it's all fine. I thought, no, so I phoned them and I said, are you sure? So I was over the moon, really chuffed. The benefits of it, I think, I think it's starting to get to some people who have been fairly silent, publicly coming forward and listening to what me and others are saying. I think that's a huge step forward. I think in time it may open up some doors that have been shut again and again and again. And it's also put a stop to some of the less than positive responses we've had for some politicians about asking them to account. I think the award gives them the impression or the understanding that actually people on high are valuing some of the work we're actually carrying out. So it's been very positive, very much a surprise, and hoping that it will open some more ears and hearts to the things that we're talking about, because all we're concerned about at the end of the day is whether you're small, tall, black, white, able, disabled. If you're under 18 in Birmingham and other cities, you're one of our children, and we all have a collective responsibility to ensure that you get the best kind of childhood you can, not just a certain select few. That's it in a nutshell.
Eddie, that is a fantastic account of wonderful achievements and the significant role you've been able to play for children in Birmingham, and very much at the heart of the honours process of being able to recognise great achievements such as that. I've been able to introduce all the colleagues, notwithstanding the problems of Wi-Fi. I wonder whether I might invite colleagues to say a little bit more about the honours process now, because if we are to help people to feel confident about recommending people for honours, and also to be imaginative and reaching out to people who they might not have otherwise have thought about, or might be whose achievements might go unnoticed. It's important that we tell the story about how the honours are decided, I think. So as I said when I introduced this session, I'm the honours champion in the department, and we encourage a whole range of organisations across the sector to help us in identifying people who've done extraordinary things, and we get many propositions and nominations in from across the education sector. A lot of this is done online, so we receive those nominations directly because people are able to type online on gov.uk. And what we do in the department, in having received many of those nominations, or sometimes going out and reaching out ourselves when colleagues in the department identify are able to spot people who've done marvelous things in the education system, then we bring together the evidence as best we can and tell the stories of the individual candidates, relying as much as we can on the nominations that we've from the public and from representative organisations that we've received, and then we present those nominations to the Independent Education Committee. And I said in my introductions that Hamid Patel and Alison sitting next to me are both members of that committee. So I wonder whether I can ask you, Alison and then Hamid, tell us a bit about what do you look for? What impresses you? How do you make the decisions? And what are the sort of things that really enables you to sort of to spot and award the wonderful success stories of people like Eddie and Emma and Joe and John that we've heard today. But let me turn it to Alison first.
Okay, thank you. So what happens is that we receive information about each of the candidates, as has been said, and we look to really understand the story. So it has to go beyond the job that someone's doing. We're looking at what are they doing beyond their paid for work. Where are they showing their commitment? Are they spending time doing some charitable work? Are they doing work beyond what they're paid to do? And we're interested in that story. But because we're quite a diverse panel, we're also able to share our intelligence about things claims that are being made. We really interrogate that information because we always have more applications than we have space to provide an award for. So we're looking to see who are the most deserving candidates that we can find that we really feel are, worthy of an award. We receive the information. We also receive a sort of a recommended banding of where the department have looked and said, well, we think these people may be suitable for an MBE, we think these people may be suitable for an OBE, and so on. And then when we meet together as a panel, we actually debate that. So we not only debate who do we think is worthy, we also check and make sure that the level of award is commensurate with the amount of contribution that has been made. And those debates can be very lively. We meet for a whole day. And we have a panel that represents FE, HE, the school sector, primary sector, early years. So we're really sharing our collective knowledge, and we're very careful not to bow to political pressure at any point. This is about genuinely understanding the worthiness of every candidate and how we might recognise their contribution.
Hamid, do you want to say a little bit more about the? So that sounds as both a friendly but quite a vigorous and perhaps even a little bit argumentative discussions about the nature of the evidence. So, say a little bit more about the secrets of the room of the Honours Committee.
Thank you for that, Andrew, and thank you, Dame Alison. As Dame Alison has sort of explained, we meet, before the meeting, we're given a booklet with hundreds of these stories, and these stories are enlightening, they're inspirational. We realize the vast difference made by so many individuals who go the extra mile from such an array of roles, from early years and social care, schools, further education, higher education. And it genuinely is a privilege to serve on the committee. It's great to be part of a process that celebrates and rewards these outstanding individuals. And as Dame Alison has very clearly articulated, essentially we decide whether the nominations demonstrate that individuals have made a significant contribution to the sector, whatever their role and whatever their phase of education. And there's a quota of awards to be made for different honours. So we have so many that we can award at MB level, so many at OB level, CB level, and then knighthood and damehoods. In terms of, it's really helpful to know a bit about the background of the nominee. What challenges have they faced? So we see so many nominations that it's great to get a sort of a sense of what the person has overcome to be able to make such an important contribution. So, is there any adversity that they've overcome? What is it? What's sort of unique about this story? What makes it distinctive? And secondly, you want to know about impact. It's great when a nomination points to the thing that is now different because of the hard work of the nominee. So what? So where you've got a combination of a story that sort of helps us to sort of it's about standing out in the crowd, that helps us to sort of identify the uniqueness of that story, but also the impact of that work. I mean, I could go on, Andrew, but I'll sort of stop at that. There's so many nominations, and everyone that's there, whether they're awarded an award or not, the fact that they've been nominated, they're heroes, and we can't give an award to every person that comes to us. We're guided by the Prime Minister's strategic priorities, and we look for what demonstrable impact the person has made.
Well, again, thank you, Hamid. When we rely in the Department for Education very much on organisations or members of the public to nominate people. Although we can identify some people ourselves, because in all our work in the department, obviously we meet and come across and work with a great number of people across the education sector, but that's only a small proportion. And of course, we rely on the nominations that we receive, and so it's one of our biggest objectives to continue to reach out and encourage nominations from all walks of life, that to be able to identify and spot the talents from right across the sector. So I'm interested from your experience, John and Joe and Emma and Eddie, having been in receipt of honours. Do you have any thoughts or about how we might identify in the future people who have gone the extra mile, who deserve that? How can we reach out in the department to find those wonderful people, and what advice would you have for people in the organisations that you work with, what could play a part in identifying future candidates? So what advice can you offer? So let me turn to Emma first, because you're a great ambassador for apprenticeships. How could we reach out and identify more Emmas of the world to be honoured?
So I think one of the things I was thinking of as you were talking, when you've got any organisation or volunteering organisations, typically I think if you had a discussion with lots of people who work together and who work in that organisation, and you said something along the lines of who always goes the extra mile or who always does more, nearly everyone would always probably be able to go this person, this person, this person. I don't think anyone would ever be kind of stumped on who does go the extra mile. So I think in nearly every organisation, everyone knows 2 or 3 or 4 or many more people that would be deserving of it quite quickly. So I think it's combining that with having more discussions of the honours, having it more kind of in the forefront of people's mind. And then I think once you combine those two things, I think quite quickly there would always be so many people that everyone would just be up for spending the time writing the nomination and all agreeing that they would be deserving of it. So yeah, I definitely think it's one of those things where you always know people that do those exceptional things. So yeah, combining that with the awareness, I guess.
Joe, can I ask you a similar question, but in a slightly different area? The committee is very clear that the nominations it looks to see should be representative of the population, and specifically in education, because education is the numbers in education, there are more women in education than men, and so it has to be representative of the numbers of women. So in fact, we look to see 65% of the nominations to be women, and of course with also really important representative of all talent across different backgrounds and different racial backgrounds as well. So again, very important that we always ensure that there is at very least 10%. We always try to make sure there are more than that because of the nature of the population of people from ethnic minorities on the list. So, Joe, I wonder whether I might ask you, because we are always looking to make sure that we are properly represented in the education system. How can we make sure that women are properly represented, and how make sure that we reach the nominations from wonderful talent from people from different racial backgrounds as well?
Okay, yeah, sure. I think there's probably three elements I would think in response to that. The first one, I think it's about embedding it within the school system that we've got and working within the structures that we've got, embedding the honours system, because at the moment, from my perspective, and I can only speak personally, it sits very far outside of the education world that I know and the conversations that happen. And I think by embedding it in the existing structures, not battling against things, but we know the movement, we know policy movement, embed it within those structures so it becomes part of the everyday conversation, and language would help. I think the second thing would be changing the image of who receives an honour. So in my mind, until I received an honour, I did think more of men, and that's a really, really, sad indictment that I thought that was something that it was the names that I could think of in the education world were men who'd received this. So I do think that is a really important point. And I think by changing the image, I think this event is a great way to do it. But I think this is one example, within our own regions. We've got people here today on the screen. We've got lots of people here, as you mentioned, Andrew, in Birmingham, who would be really good ambassadors for this. And actually, it's at that local level that it often makes the most impact, that people think, oh, well, yeah, well, you're within the same circles. Actually, yeah, there are people within our organisation that, as Emma said, that really are doing that and are going that extra mile. And also, as the third part, as part of that image change, I think it's that encouragement for people that this image of who receives an honour, if you're thinking of nominating someone, look for the people who are getting on with it and making the difference. Don't be thinking the images of this amazing superhero who is flying around and all over Twitter and all over everywhere and all the things we say. Actually, let's look for those people who are going that extra mile, are humbly getting on with it, are making a real difference. And as Emma said, when you start to change that image of who receives an honour, yeah, actually now I can think of that and I can think of that person. And that also applies to the whole range of roles within education, whether it be support staff, whether it be teachers, whether it be leaders, whether it be site staff, whoever it is working within education. Actually, if they are fitting that image that we are painting of who is deserving of an honour, then that will hopefully make the shift and help towards making that difference.
John, a slightly different part of the education sector. There are lots of crossovers with wonderful head teachers like Joe. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think a couple of points really. I think Joe said something earlier that I totally agree with. I think I felt that honours were really for people who were retiring. So I think my perception was that, that's a nice thing that they give you one of those maybe when you get to the end of your career. So I think there is some work to change perception. So while I'm not as useful as Joe, I'm not retiring either. So but I think there's some work to do there. And I think also I really like that word. I think Andrew, you said you're the honours champion in the DFE, and I do wonder whether there's an opportunity to look at areas that are underrepresented, geographies that are underrepresented, and actually have somebody who practically is, like an honours champion. For me, I think the barriers are, it doesn't seem that easy to know how to apply. You need to know quite a lot about it in order to think about nominating somebody for an honour, and almost you've created a bit of a cycle that's hard to break, because unless you're in the honours system, you don't know much about it. So I think there is something to try and make it much easier. I haven't checked the website. I don't know. Is there a video that says if you want to nominate somebody, this is how you go about it? So we really make it simple. But I think something practical it would be to look at the areas of the UK that are underrepresented. To look at the individuals you've mentioned who might not be getting the profile that they should have, and to see if there's a way of using some sort of champions mechanism, just somebody in an area to answer those questions, to go, how does it work? How do you apply? So that's my rambling thoughts, building on a couple of things that Joe has said.
And that's really, really helpful, John. Eddie, there's an image, perhaps, that some parts of the education system, like distinguished professors in universities, or long-standing sort of head teachers, are those for whom the honours are reserved for, and not people in different other walks of life across the children's sector and early years and social work, and of which all of which play a vital and rich part of the world of education. Do you, from the work that you've done, Eddie, and the people that you know in Birmingham, how might you what messages would you want to send to people in across Birmingham and elsewhere that the honours are open to all people who have go that extra mile and do significant work in education for children, not just distinguished professors or long-standing head teachers?
How can you do that? Yeah, it's quite a hard one, isn't it? Because it's a contradiction in the sense of an honour is a title in itself, and the tendency goes towards looking at people who have existing titles, sort of professors and everything else. So it's how do you connect with people for the work they actually do, as opposed to the title that some person has. And I suppose for me, in the world that I work, the heart and soul of it is about being kind and compassionate and courageous, and being prepared to not be silent. I think certainly when it comes to children and families, lots of people know what the issues are, but for a variety of reasons, they feel frightened of saying anything that challenges that kind of status quo. I think in terms of what you can do to sort of move the image away a bit from the rich and the famous and the well-connected, because quite a lot of people still have that image that the honours system is there about because who you know, or because you are rich or famous. It would be about, I think, as Emma and Joe and John have said, about how do you make it more local? How do you highlight the role of the regional lieutenancy, perhaps, so people are aware that that actually exists? How do you get into, certainly with schools and social care, to parent teachers associations? How do you get into perhaps an advertising campaign that isn't dependent upon necessarily the perception that it's only senior people who can nominate others? So it's quite a challenge, but I think there is lots that can be done. I suppose, and I expect Emma, Joe, and John perhaps had a touch of it. When you hear that you've been honoured for something, you get a bit of an imposter syndrome, because spending a bit of time thinking, actually, I know so many others who, and it's not false humility, but are doing a fantastic job, and it's just not recognised for them. And I suppose for me, whatever role I have, whether as a manager or as a social worker, whatever, for me, one of the most important things about work is that you help others shine. And I think the honours system is a very good vehicle to help others shine, because as they shine more, they then help others shine more. So it's kind of a nice, positive process. But I think you're absolutely right. It needs widening out a bit. And I don't mean this, for people who aren't part of that world, to feel as though they are just as worthy to be nominated and to be involved.
Well, thank you, Eddie. Well, I mean, that is the helping people shine is a wonderful phrase to bring this discussion to a close, because I think that is what we're all about, and what we're also through these conversations, so they're searching for is how do we help identify more people and the shining of more people. So can I just thank Hamid, Alison, John, Joe, and Emma, and Eddie for your advice and your experiences. And I'm going to hand back to Shirley Best now, who I think could just say a few final words about the honours system. So Shirley, back to you.
Hello. So thank you very much for a really interesting and hopefully inspiring conversation to you all. Two key themes running is about being humble, that somebody somewhere recognises you and values you for the great things you do. And I think there was something about changing the image of who can recommend for an honour and receive an honour. Basically, I think the only way we can do that is to work together to make more recommendations from across the board. So I just think so now we're going to take a few questions from the audience. Sorry, Will, I can't actually see the questions in the chat bar. Are there any questions? There's a question from Mary Greaves that's just come up for John, where he didn't start off in life believing this was possible, and others spoke of their disbelief in receiving an honour. How can we make people understand that honours are for all parts of society? Can I pass that over to the panel?
Right, yes. Wow, that's a big question. I was hoping somebody else would go live there. I think for me, it is some of the ideas that we've put forward, really. I think demystifying how you nominate somebody, I think would be a really good step. I think simplifying that, some simple talking heads videos. I think, as Eddie sort of described, one of the challenges is I think you feel that this is only for particular types of individuals. And I think the more you delve in, you see actually the fantastic society that we are is represented. I think coming back to something that Hamid said was about recognizing people who've gone the extra mile and done something that's a bit beyond their day job. And I think what a fantastic thing. So I think a little bit of localized encouragement and demystifying the nomination process, I think, would be my two short ones.
If I can add a word, I would love to. I think it's also about the engagement of media to promote locally the people that are receiving honours. And it's really interesting that when the honours came out in Birmingham, and as is often the case, they list them in the papers and sometimes on telly, there was no mention of myself or Birmingham's children. And I suspect that was somewhat because of the challenges that we have put to the media. And media plays a big part in shaping culture. And I think if media were more positive, perhaps, about what the honours system is about and how it recognises, perhaps not all things they may agree with, but are important to have as part of a society that is healthy and nurturing, that I think would help people think, actually, perhaps this is something that is for all of us.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm just looking to see if there's any further questions from the audience. Any further questions? Okay, so there's no further questions. Will, would you like to put up the slides? So we've just got a couple of slides here on how it works. So if when a nomination comes into the department, it can come from members of the public or stakeholders. Basically, they are considered in the department and moderated, and then the nominations are, once they've been considered by senior civil servants, they are approved by our permanent secretary. They are submitted to the independent committees to consider. These independent committees will then make recommendation to a main committee, and then the main committee will send their final list to be approved by the Prime Minister, and then ultimately by Her Majesty the Queen. And it's at that stage where you will be recommended for an award. Next slide, Will. So how to nominate someone. So there is loads of advice on the Cabinet Office website, but you should, one of the key things is to give key examples of the significant contribution that individual has made and how they have gone above and beyond expectations, not just the day job, and to really show the positive impact on society that they have made. All nominations must be confidential because obviously, we wouldn't want to give any disappointment if there's an expectation that you will be successful. And as I said, there is a wealth of knowledge at the Honours Cabinet Office, but equally, you can contact the Department for Education direct on honours.team@education.gov.uk, and I or one of my team will provide guidance and a form and answer any of your questions on how to nominate someone. Next slide, please, Will. So there is another event later on this afternoon, Honours in Academia panel, and you can see that during the week all the different types of events that have taken place and which are available via the Eventbrite page. So without further ado, unless there's any further questions, I will close the event.